This video is proudly sponsored by Thrive Market. I feel like I've been two different patients because I was the girl with Crohn's and then I was the girl with Crohn's who had surgery, and they feel like two completely different people. Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the early days of being diagnosed with Crohn's disease because they look a lot different than what life currently looks like. I know that I have a lot of friends on here who are either newly diagnosed or not quite diagnosed, and looking at somebody who has their chronic condition diagnosed for 20 years, that can be a lot. That seems very overwhelming to me. So I kind of wanted to go back in time, reflect on some of the things I experienced when I was first diagnosed, and maybe give some advice, some tips for navigating that, because there's no instruction manual, and I really think somebody should make that. The first thing that I think about when I look back at 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old Maggie, who was kind of navigating this new IBD diagnosis and really didn't know a lot about the disease, was how slowly and how sneaky the symptoms were. They came on just so slight, so slow that I felt like I didn't really notice them. I didn't really, it just didn't throw off any red flags to me, because it wasn't like one day I was healthy and then one day I was sick. It was just little tiny symptoms, a stomach ache, a little bit of nausea, having some issues in the bathroom. They would happen every once in a while, but the frequency, it picked up over time until all of a sudden I was like, wait a second, why am I having all these symptoms? It was so hard to notice that they were happening until like that was basically all of life. It was just a constant stomach ache and constant nausea and really never having a normal bowel movement. That was just what it turned into. And I think a lot of people probably resonate with that, because it's not just flip of the switch. One of the things that I would suggest to you if you're early in your diagnosis or maybe heading towards diagnosis is tracking your symptoms. And I think a really good way to do that, I don't know if you've seen this, there are little tracker sheets that have boxes for every day of the year, and people usually use them for anxiety tracking or mood tracking. Sometimes people do it for temperature outside. But say, for instance, if they were doing mood tracking, they would assign a color to a mood. So if you're angry, it's red. If you're having a great day, it's green. And then in each block, they would color it in for that day. I think that would be a really useful way to track symptoms if you're having nausea or some stomach pain, because it really paints the picture in front of you of what you're experiencing over a long period of time. I don't know why it's so hard to recall how frequently you're experiencing symptoms. It's something I still struggle with to this day, but that is a really good way to see it in front of you and keep a good eye on what's happening. Another thing that really started early on and I struggled with a lot, and I think specifically IBD people will resonate with this, is just difficulty eating. And I'm not talking about when my disease started to stricture my intestines and I had a lot of issues with constipation and obstructions. I'm talking before that, when I was just an IBD patient. I didn't know what to do with food, because I knew there was something wrong with my intestines, and I knew that food went into my intestines, but I didn't know what foods were causing what kind of symptoms. It always felt like such a gamble at every meal, because there wasn't a lot of guidance on what to eat, or, if a doctor said, here's your diet, this is what you need to do, what foods fit into that diet. That was really difficult. Thankfully, today things are improving, things are getting better, and it's a little bit easier to manage this. I think one thing that a majority of us IBD patients are told, and even other autoimmune conditions, is to avoid your triggers. Once you've identified your triggers, you will be golden, except sometimes the triggers are ingredients, and going through the grocery store when you've got your long list of stuff, reading the back of every package, trying to figure out, is my trigger food in there? It's a lot, but thankfully today things are getting better and Thrive Market is making that happen. So that brings me to today's sponsor, Thrive Market. We have been using Thrive Market for a few months now, and it has made it so convenient to keep not just like the staples that I use and the snacks that I rely on hand at my doorstep. I don't have to worry about going to the store, but it's also made it really easy to keep some of the items that I use daily for my Crohn's and my ostomy always in our home. Thrive Market is an online membership-based grocery store trying to make healthy living as easy and affordable as possible. They have such a variety of products. Every time I go on the website, I see something new, something that I want to try, and I love that they carry the things that I rely on, like my electrolyte powders and different brands that specifically target people with sensitive stomachs. I'm really looking forward to this brand. I've seen it a number of places, but Thrive Market actually had the cheapest price I've ever seen, so really looking forward to these babies. You will save on every single order of high quality, organic, and sustainable products, and they'll even price match for you. You'll make back your annual $60 membership in savings, and if you don't, they will credit you the difference. Orders over $49 ship free, and if you order frozen items, orders over $120 ship free. They also offer cash back, so make sure to look out for the Thrive Cash badge in the bottom left-hand corner. And once you join, make sure to check out the deals section. I saved $16.06 on this order. My favorite feature, though, of Thrive Market, and the one that I think you guys are really going to like, is the ability to filter by diet, lifestyle, product type, and favorite brands. This makes it so easy. If your GI tells you to follow a certain diet, like, I don't know, FODMAP, they have 90 plus different ones on their site that you can filter by. And it makes shopping by diet or lifestyle extremely easy. Go to the link in my description or go to thrivemarket.com/LetsTalkIBD to get $30 off your first order and a free gift that's worth up to $60. Thank you again to Thrive Market for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. Now let's get to talking about my early IBD experience and what that kind of looked like, and maybe some tips for you if you're early in your diagnosis. Like I was saying though, food can be really difficult to navigate, especially if your provider kind of throws a diet at you and you don't know where to start. So that's why I'm excited about Thrive Market doing something really easy to help us. Now, I think one of the most difficult things that I experienced as a brand new patient, and thankfully it has calmed down quite a bit now that I'm into my disease, I know a bit about it, and I've been living with it for a while, is all of the tests. It felt like every other day there was some sort of test going on: blood work, scopes, upper GIs, barium swallows, barium enemas, all these fun sounding things. It felt like they were every day. And it's because they kind of were. They were trying to figure out what my Crohn's disease was doing, where was it mainly situated in, which we found out was my colon, and just trying to figure out how it would react to different medications. So it really was a time of just a ton of monitoring, and that can really get you down. I think one of the most helpful things, one of the best things that my dad did for me was really trying to I don't know the word I'm looking for here. He would try to add fun things into these rough days, because there were times when I was getting blood work 2-3 times a week to monitor different medication levels. And I would be seeing my GI to check on my weight, and I was getting all of the other tests done just to see what was going on inside of me, and it felt so daunting, and it felt like such a drag, honestly. I don't know how else to describe it. I was just in a really low mood. So my dad would try to do fun things, like for my GI appointments, I really did not like going to them. They were always kind of depressing to me. And so my dad would take me out to lunch at my favorite place after every GI appointment. He would also allow me to not go back to school. Gave me a little bit of break because he knew I wasn't feeling the best either. And he tried not to put pressure on me when we were out to lunch. Even though it was my favorite place, there was never pressure to finish all of my food there. And if I had big tests coming up, like a scope or something that I was really nervous for, he would try to plan an outing like to a museum or a trip to Philadelphia or whatever to take my mind off of it. Because when I was younger and I had these tests coming up, and you may feel like this today, that's all I thought about that week. That's all I could think about, and it was terrible. So if you're able to, if you're healthy enough, add something fun into those days, into those really rough days. Something to look forward to, something to brighten the week, because it really can feel like all you're focusing on is your disease. The last and the most important thing that I can tell you, and I wish I could go back in time in my time machine and tell 11-year-old Maggie this: stop being embarrassed. It's not like you asked for it. You didn't ask for the disease, you didn't ask for any of the tests, and you certainly didn't ask for all of the symptoms. Stop being embarrassed and stop being ashamed, because that's all I was. And it led to me not telling some of my symptoms and some of the things I was experiencing to anyone, my dad, my healthcare provider, nobody. And I don't think you would probably guess that today as I share my rectumless tales online, but I didn't talk about any of this at all because I wasn't sharing the embarrassing bathroom symptoms and the bleeding I was having and the pain I was having in, some intimate locations on my body. I normalized all of it for myself. I kept telling myself, it's probably normal that you haven't had a bowel movement in weeks, and a little bit of blood is fine. Like, that's what I kept telling myself till, it got to a point where I was really, really sick. And all it was doing, all of this embarrassment and this shame was doing, was letting me suffer longer. So stop being stoic, stop being ashamed, tell doctors what's going on. And don't be afraid of judgment, because I can guarantee you right now, they've probably seen worse. I worked as a nurse. I saw a lot worse than what I dealt with. So they've seen worse. I really hope that if you're early on in your diagnosis, or maybe you're not quite diagnosed yet, and you're dealing with these chronic symptoms, that maybe this video helped you a little bit in trying to navigate this world. Thank you again to Thrive Market for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check out the link in my description or go to thrivemarket.com/LetsTalkIBD to get $30 off your first order. You're not going to regret it. I love it. I love how easy it is. All right, imagine I had a little champagne glass in my hand. Here's to a healthier and a happier future, even with a chronic diagnosis. Clink. All right. See you soon, guys. Bye.